Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music, or as I like to say, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. And today I am in Studio One, the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society, but our guest is 2,000 miles away in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. A great friend, great bass player, fabulous person, Alixe Landry. Alixe, thanks so much for taking the time and talking with me today.
Thank you, Jefferson. It's a real pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
So we where we met was at Victor Wooten's camp. Theory camp. You were at Theory camp that weekend, weren't you?
Yes.
And then the Spirit of Music camp, which is a really kind of an unbelievably profound experience. Just had a great time, learned an awful lot, still processing what I'm learning. But we ended up having a number of conversations about music, about the spirit of music, about other things, about nature, and just really had a good time doing that. And I thought that you had a few things that would be very interesting for people to hear, and so hopefully we can chat a little bit about that.
Sounds good.
So I know you. Well, I don't know. I think you picked up the bass and music more recently in your life, but do you remember music prior to that in your life, or what you thought about music? Did you play instruments? Did you have a lot of music in your household? What did you, as a teen, did you go to dances or play, or what did you do?
Well, my mother played the piano. She came to Denver to go to Denver University on a music scholarship. She was a piano player. And so she played classical music. And always there was classical music and opera in the house as I was growing up. And I remember as a little girl, I'd get ready for bed and I'd be sitting in my little night dress, sitting next to the piano while she would play and just feeling the vibrations of the music before I toddled off to bed. And, those were very pleasant memories. I grew up with my mother and my grandmother. My grandmother didn't play music, but when my mother would leave the house, every once in a while, my grandmother would put on some Johnny Cash or something like that. So I had a little bit of exposure to that. And I played, I wanted to take piano lessons, and I started taking lessons when I was about 8. And I played for maybe till I was about 12. I didn't practice a lot. I still can't read music. And as I was going into puberty, I gave up piano because my piano teacher was an older strict German lady who was only interested in teaching me classical music. And I was getting into rock and roll. So I quit because I was way cooler than playing classical music at that point. And
for sure.
It's a disappointment to me. I wish somebody had said, really kind of inquired a little bit deeper into why I wanted to quit, because it would have been wonderful to continue with that education. But I quit playing piano. I picked up the guitar, I think, in high school and just played a little bit. I could play a few chords. And then that was about it in terms of me playing. I loved Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and, the British Invasion. I was really into that. I loved going to concerts and dancing. Then I got married and had kids, and all of that stopped.
Right. When you were playing guitar and playing a few chords, what were you playing? Campfire songs or rock songs?
Rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a little bit of a similar situation, and then I took piano lessons in 4th grade for one semester, but the recital kind of creeped me out. I would just felt funny getting up and playing this song I didn't really know, and my mom said, "Do you want to take lessons again?" And I said, "No." And just like you, I wish somebody had said, "Well, yeah, but," And, here's another way to look at it. And, you could play this. You don't have to play that song, whatever. So a little bit of a similar experience. So then you didn't really, even though your mom was certainly a musician, you didn't you didn't play too much as a mom yourself and with kids. I assume you were still listening and dancing in the kitchen or going to dances and things like that.
No dancing, but I listen. I listen to CDs and stuff. But unfortunately, our household was, we had the TV on all the time. Mm-hmm. So it really was a lot less music. My husband and I had very different tastes in music. So, music really took a back seat during that period of time in my life.
So then there must have been something that kind of brought it back in, and music crept back into your life. How'd that happen?
It did. I got divorced. And about a year after I got divorced, I started dating a man that would become my second husband, and he played guitar. So we'd been dating for about 6 months when I finally got up the nerve to say, hey, I used to play guitar. And I got up the courage to get my guitar out of the closet and dust it off and start playing again. And that was a lot of fun. It was fun to have somebody to play with. It was fun to start, having music come back into my life. But it wasn't in a big way. At that time, I felt, because he was such a better player than I was, I didn't feel like musically we could have much of a conversation, that I didn't really have anything to add to the conversation. So he bought me a really nice acoustic guitar, and, I played a little, but just not, I just didn't practice. I didn't get any better. And it was a number of years later when music really came into my life in a very, very profound way. My mother was diagnosed with leukemia, and she passed away. I was going through really the most difficult period of my entire life. I had just turned 50 years old. My mother had died. My son was struggling with heroin addiction. My marriage was falling apart. I was losing everything. I was just in such a state of despair, trying to keep going, but just feeling like I was losing everything. And my husband was taking a class at a local music school called Swallow Hill Music. He was taking a class with his son called the House of Rock, where you have an 8-week class and you put a set list together, and then they throw you on stage. And they had a bunch of guitar players, so he had to play bass on a couple of songs. And I remember washing dishes, and I heard him playing the bass line to Little Wing in the other room. And I stopped, I took off my rubber gloves, I went in the other room, and I said, you have to show me that. And he showed me how to play the bass line to Little Wing. And I said, when you're done with this class, I'm taking this bass.
Great.
I don't know why I waited another, 5 weeks, but because I could have started playing right then. But anyway, I picked up the bass as soon as he was done with that class, and it was hilarious because it was a giant 5-string Peavey, and it was such a beast of a bass. It was way too big for me. My hands couldn't navigate the fretboard, but I didn't care. I just absolutely loved it, and I played about 2 months. Doing YouTube videos and that sort of thing. And then I realized I really do love this. And at that point, I bought a bass that fit me. And I wanted to approach it in a very kind of a systematic way. So I started taking lessons at Swallow Hill Music. I had the great pleasure of taking a lot of lessons from Matt Skellinger, who's one of the best bass players in Colorado and a great teacher, gave me a very, very solid foundation. But I just felt so blessed because, as I said, I was going through such a dark period of time that to have music come to me right then when I absolutely needed it the most, I had this period of time when I would practice or play with other people to where I couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't think about, there was a 6-month period of time when I didn't know where my son was. I didn't know if he was alive or dead, and to have a period of time where I could have not only a bit of peace, but some true joy, I'm just incredibly grateful for that.
Wow, it sounds like it really was very meaningful to you and really helped you out. And you talked about joy. I mean, what else? I mean, can you describe what else once you've heard that bass line and you had to go out and get it? I mean, what was that?
That's a really great question, Jefferson. What is it about the bass? Because, the piano was okay and the guitar was okay, but the bass was my thing. I don't know what that was. As I delved into it, I realized that as a guitar player, I had actually kind of approached the guitar from a bass player perspective. So there's just something in me that, wants to play the bass.
I've often thought when I was, I started harmonica pretty late in life, and it was like, whoa, wow, what is this? Why do I want to do this? But I remember spending, probably months trying to learn this one little Walter song, Blue Midnight, trying to get the bends and get it just right. And I realized it kind of gave meaning to my life. It was, I was having all these other things were going on, work and whatever, but that's what I really looked forward to when I came home, was being able to go down there and sort of tackle that and try to master it or create it or get it or whatever you call it. And it's sort of like that when you're practicing, I guess. So then, did you get into a band then, or did you? What were sort of the next steps on the trajectory? When did the Victor Wooten thing happen, and how did that happen?
So, my husband brought home this book called The Music Lesson, and by a guy named Victor Wooten.
Yep.
I had no idea who Victor Wooten was. And that, my husband was very interested in how music works and kind of the theory behind it. And that book sat on the shelf for quite a while before I picked it up. And I remember I had come across one of Victor's songs. I had an iPod back in the day, and there was a song, you ain't got no groove if you ain't got no pocket or something like that. And I remember thinking, he's a cool guy. This is really fun. And at one point, I ended up picking up the book and reading it. And I just, you've read it. You know what a wonderful book it is. And it wasn't long after that he ended up coming to town, and he was doing a music, something at a music store, kind of a demonstration. So I took my, music lesson book down there, and it's the only time in my life I've ever stood in line to actually get somebody's autograph. And I'd been playing a year at that point. And so I was very thrilled to get to meet him. And I remember talking to him and telling him how I'd heard about his camp. I think through the book, there was a comment at the back of the book about Vic's camps. And I went online and I thought, I have to do this. This is definitely number one on my bucket list. I want to go to his camps. And so when I met him and got his autograph and I told him I would love to go to his camp, I remember him saying, "So what's stopping you?" I said, "Well, I have 4 kids in college." So he was very understanding about that. But actually the next year, I was able to go. And I'd only been playing for 2 years. And I remember being terrified, but at the same time, realizing that life happens outside of your comfort zone. And so I definitely put myself way outside of my comfort zone by going to a bass camp with, 59 other bass players, being, one of the least experienced there. And it just had an absolutely profound impact on me. You've been, you understand.
Yeah. I want to ask more about that, but how would you describe Victor's book? I mean, what did it mean to you? What did it sort of say to you when you read it?
Well, it was just a completely different approach. I loved the fact that he wasn't, that it was not an instruction book, that it was written from the perspective of a novel, and you can get out of it what you want to get out of it, and take from it what you want to take from it. But I appreciated being exposed to things other than, what the notes are and the music theory, but the other elements of music that really make music what it is.
And so, I certainly was inspired by the book. It kind of inspired the whole Planetary Gig Society and the mission about making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace, where, Michael, there's the bird clock, where Michael in the book says, intention is the key to everything.
Yes.
And certainly the camps are very inspiring. So, but do you mind talking a little bit about, that first camp, and then how you ended up going to Spirit Camp, and what Spirit Camp also is kind of meant to you, or how you would describe it?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. Bass camp was great. There was a lot of music instruction there, in terms of being a new player. It was really helpful to get some concrete tips of things that I can do. It helped me understand how music works better, because I was a very new player. And I had just started playing with other people. There was just so much good, quote, information, solid information,
Mm-hmm.
That I could take back and apply. And it has really helped me as a musician be able to become a much better player, but really to help me communicate with others. And it wasn't just the bass camp, but having amazing instruction here in Denver as well, that just really helped me develop as a musician. Going to Spirit Camp, I think being in Wooten Woods that first year, going to bass camp, and just being in an environment where it was really, it's kind of cliche to say coming home, but to feel accepted and loved. There's such an energy of love in that place. And not just from Victor and the people, the other instructors there, but just from all of the other students that went. It's just an amazing, just such a positive energy that fueled my soul, and that is why I went back. It wasn't just for the instruction, but it was just for the energy of Wooten Woods and what a special place it is. So I just thought the Spirit of Music looked fun. So I did that. And one thing I liked is that it wasn't just for bass players, and it was for all musicians, whether you're a guitar player or keyboard player or a vocalist. And that's really fun, because then just from the times when you have where you can just make music with other people, it can be a challenge if you're playing with 6 other bass players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find your space. So it's really fun from that perspective to be able to play with other people playing different instruments. There's a lot more room there. But from the spiritual side of it, we get into some really deep things, and it's just kind of helped me just as a person, just to grow. I don't know how else to explain it.
One of the things that we talked a little bit about is that you had said, and this was very helpful for me, you said that I've been trying to just, maybe put things out there and just kind of let them happen. Let the synchronicity, let the coincidences sort of happen. And is that something where I don't know if you were working on that? Would you say you're working on it, and it is in some ways something you have to work about not trying to press too hard?
I would say allowing. One thing I love about Spirit Camp is every time I have gone, there has been something magical and beyond explanation that has happened. And I'm always jazzed when those experiences happen. And, you and I had one of those experiences while we were there as well. So.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I let on that, gosh, it would be great to interview whoever this character was who Victor had modeled Michael in the book after. And we walked outside of the building, the woodshed, and Michael walked by.
Walked right in front of us. So, oh my gosh, I just had to laugh because I just remember you saying, one person I would really like to interview is Michael. And when we walked outside and he walked in front of us. And the funny thing was that, Victor didn't even know he was going to be there.
Right.
Oh, and just the timing of it. I just got a huge kick out of that. And then you were able to interview him.
And that was unbelievable because, when I said that, I didn't even know who Michael was. I didn't have any idea he'd ever show up. I'd ever meet him, and end up, out in the pavilion at midnight, 1:00, talking with him with the crickets and the armadillo who paid us a visit. It was and plus to have that conversation, that was just, I had to hold on to my seat, hold on to my hat as I was talking with him because it was so special. But that really has been a special place, Wooten Woods, and I really enjoyed talking with you about a number of different things on this musical and spiritual side. We have such a crazy society these days, and we've talked about that. We get back from music camp, or some people get back from vacation, and it's like they go back to unreality. And here we are in unreality dealing with all these political things and rancor and anger. And what thoughts do you have about, what do we do? What keys does music have, or what insights can music give us, or can we try to use or tap into to make things better?
It's such a great question, and it's, we are facing such challenges in this world. And what can we do to make things better, and to bring peace to the world, and what part does music have, to play in that? From my perspective, in terms of, bringing peace to the world, I really feel like, number one, it starts with ourselves. We can't use force to bring peace. Dropping bombs on people that we don't agree with does not change their opinion.
Right.
Being angry, there's a place for anger, but I don't think anger brings peace to the world. So for me, I believe that how I can make an impact is it has to start with me, and I have to create peace within myself. And maybe that's the best that I can do. And I think in how do I create peace within myself? A lot of it has to do with intention, what I'm doing with my thoughts. I have to manage my thoughts, and that doesn't mean, burying my head in the sand and not being aware of the problems that we face, but where do I choose to focus my thoughts? And I strongly believe in the power of positivity. I can focus on the negative or I can focus on the positive. And if I find when I focus on positive things, I create a more positive life for myself. And I don't know, I feel it starts there.
Well, that's really important. It's easy to think, oh my gosh, those other people, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they did that. The person at work. But you do kind of create by thought, as one of my teachers, Avery Canfer, always said. And music is kind of an interesting thing in that it can also, I mean, you can't play music unless you're thinking about trying to play music. You got to think positively about it and put that intention on it. So maybe it's a better roadmap, a better way than we could imagine. Well, Alex, I really appreciate your taking the time. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate that you had this story to tell. I do believe that, it's very inspiring that what you have to say is something that people want to hear. Some people, need to hear. And so I'm just very appreciative of your being able to take the time and have a little planetary gig talk.
Well, thank you, Jefferson. I appreciate you. I appreciate you wanting to talk with me, and I'm just so grateful that music came into my life, and it really saved me spiritually. And now I'm able to share music with other people, and hopefully I can inspire them through that. So thank you for your friendship, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much, Alixe Landry. That's Planetary Gig Talk for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.